Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs are 6-1 coming off their second bye week of the season with a date in Jacksonville with the Florida Gators on the horizon. He met with the media today to talk about it. Let's get into it.
Start the questions.
Our guys got back last night and get ready to fire back up after a couple days off for this big Georgia-Florida game. Excited again to go to Jacksonville and play in a awesome venue. It's very unique to have the neutral site and have, split crowd. And every year we go and play in it. It's very different, than the SEC home away atmosphere. It's kind of weird because it's, sits right there in the middle, and it can be loud both ways, and it's kind of a momentum game. Whoever's crowd is into it at the time or who has the momentum. But our guys are back and ready to get to work.
So if you've ever been to Jacksonville, you know exactly what he's saying there. And it's absolutely true that whichever team has it rolling and that fan base is loud and making an impact on the game, it actually really has an impact on how this thing's going to play out. And the cool part is you can experience both sides of that during the same game because there are constant swings of momentum back and forth. And I, for one, have always been a fan of the game in Jacksonville, but that's because that was my first exposure to it. I know that Kirby would prefer that it be a home and away scenario for recruiting purposes, but Georgia seems to be doing okay on the recruiting front right now. And based off of the reconstruction going on at Jacksonville over the next couple of years and the fact that there's new contracts that have been signed, I expect this game's going to be in Jacksonville for the foreseeable future. And just count me as somebody who really, I like that. I think that the fact that it's neutral, the fact that the stadium is split the way it is, the fact that as a Georgia fan, we can go down there and have a good time, make a weekend of it, make an extended weekend of it. I think that's really cool. It leads an event right here in the middle of the year. It's always something to look forward to. And as we all know, every day is a great day to hate the Gators.
Yeah, Coach, what have you seen from DJ LAGWAY in this Florida offense? Obviously going through a lot of changes, but just from a personnel standpoint, particularly the quarterback.
He's a really bright player, got a bright future, great arm talent, got an ability to process information quickly, get ball out on RPOs, really hard to tackle when it comes to you do get through on the rush, and if you ever get through, it's like, okay, now I got to finish. And finishing on a guy that size is harder than you think in terms of his escapability and ability to kind of lengthen plays and do things. So he's done a good job. He's improved. We kind of watched him grow before our eyes throughout last year and this year, and he's surrounded by a really talented group of wideouts and a really talented offensive line. I mean, they're physical in the offensive line. It seems like they got guys that have been playing there for a while, and that complements his style very well.
Well, everything Kirby said there's true about old LAGWAY. I mean, he was the overall #1 dual threat quarterback coming out of high school in his class. And last year, when we got to this game, everybody was unsure exactly what he was going to do, and he performed well as long as he was in it. He made big throws. He used his legs. He really did a good job. Now, this year, he hasn't been healthy at all. Like, he didn't have any real camp or spring practice or off season because he was dinged up the whole time. So he was only getting his first full practices in the lead up to the Texas game, which Florida won, by the way. Florida, and I have said this all season, their first 22 are really good. And Kirby didn't even talk about the fact that they've got a running back this year that anybody in the country would take. So it's not like Florida's not a dangerous football team. But given everything that has been going on around the program recently and their lack of depth overall, you have to wonder what kind of fight, what kind of will they're going to have as this thing stretches into 4 quarters. But regardless of all that, and maybe we'll get into it here in a second, LAGWAY himself is a talented player. I have wondered out loud whether or not if Napier got fired, would LAGWAY stick with Florida, wait and see who the new head coach is going to be, or would he be out the door with Billy? Because they were essentially tied at the hip. So there's a lot of drama there. It'll be interesting to see how this young man handles it, especially in a game like this against a quality opponent in the Georgia Bulldogs. But one thing's for sure, he's a dangerous player, and he can absolutely hurt you on any given play.
Coach, how deep in the weeds do you get on Russ Callaway's background or O'Hara's background now that they're going to have different play callers?
Yeah, I don't know that we have time to dig deep enough in the weeds that you would have to dig all the way into. I mean, I think, obviously Billy Gonzalez will have an impact on that as well. He's been around some really good offensive staffs and has some things he believes in. They have, you don't overhaul your entire offense in that short of time. There's definitely ways to change it up in terms of going faster, tempo, and allowing guys to make plays and go with tempo. They've used tempo quite a bit this year, and I would expect them to continue to do that, to be in attack mode and try to take advantage of some of the things they've seen on tape versus us.
And that points to where I wanted him to go with it here, which is we just spoke about LAGWAY and what he can do. And if they're aggressive and they're going to try to take it to Georgia in the way that Georgia has been susceptible this season, that means they're going to push the ball down the field against Georgia's secondary, against those corners that are finding their way. And we know that they have playmakers out wide, and we know that the quarterback can get the ball to them. So the matchup between the offensive and defensive lines, the pass rush, whether Georgia can keep them behind the sticks, continue to play run the way they have all season, and then make them have to throw the ball when Georgia feels like they're going to throw the ball and thus can react with pressure packages and things like that. That's going to be the key to this game. And we all have seen this staff for Georgia be able to make adjustments in game at halftime, regardless of what the coaches have said in the past about there's not enough time to make adjustments. You make adjustments after every series with the iPads on the sideline and that sort of thing. You can do it in real time. And in terms of doing it in real time, there aren't many better in the game today than Kirby Smart in terms of doing that on the sideline in real time with his defensive unit. So I think they can navigate that part. But whether or not the back end holds up, because Florida's going to take shots down the field, we have to hope that they've been able to continue to improve during this off week, continue to improve in forcing turnovers to take opportunities away from that Florida team, because we know they're going to push it down the field, or at least we should expect them to, given what they've seen on tape from the Dogs this season.
Coach, right up here, what sort of challenges present that first game for a team after they've moved on from the coach?
Don't know that I know that. You're asking what challenges. There's probably challenges. There's probably advantages. There's a new voice, sometimes new energy, sometimes change brings about a spark. I'm sure they'll change some things up and not in disrespect in any way to what Billy did, but sometimes when you bring somebody in, there's new juice there. I don't know the challenges it would present. I hadn't been part of that.
That was my first thought. I'm like, Kirby hasn't really been down that road. Like, obviously, he's never been fired like that. And he was with, Nick for so many years. That wasn't an issue there. I mean, it's just one of those situations where he hadn't seen it. So that's a fair answer. And honestly, he can't put himself in the shoes of somebody that has done it. But that was a decent effort at it there.
Yeah, what have you seen out of Chris Cole this year and how he has developed for you guys?
Yeah, Chris is growing as a rusher and an inside backer. That's been a big emphasis for us, is him to be able to play on the edge, but also still play at inside backer. And he even played, early in the season, and we still use him in some things against 12 personnel where he walks out and plays more of a star outside backer type position. So he's had 3 roles, and he's developed in those while maintaining his special teams status of a really good player on special teams.
So that's what's happened. What they hope happens, what we all hope happens, is that Chris continues to follow the path that Jalen Walker just tread, which was learn to play middle, also play on the edge, but know where your money's made. And his money can be made getting after the quarterback, especially on a team like this one for Georgia that needs that presence. So they need to make sure that they're putting him in the best opportunities possible for him to get after the quarterback, because his physical attributes lend themselves to him being able to be an effective and disruptive pass rusher. But he's got to get the looks, he's got to get the reps, the defense has to put them in position to do that. And then the most important thing about it for Chris is that when he gets there, it's like Kirby was talking about earlier, he has to finish. There have been multiple times this year, I can think of 3 or 4 right off the top of my head, where Chris is right there and he just doesn't get it done. But the same can be said for all of Georgia's pass rushers this year. Elo Mendoza, I've seen him in the same position. So once you get home, you have to finish. But as far as Chris doing his thing, he's learning, he's growing. The faster he figures that out, the better it's going to be for Georgia and for us as Georgia fans.
Yeah, Coach, obviously JADAN BAUGH, kid from Decatur here at Columbia High School.
The running back.
What do you remember about his recruitment, and what have you seen from him as a football player down there in Florida?
Yeah, he's a tremendous talent. Met him in ninth grade. He doubled as a safety and played a lot of DB early in his career, and just kept getting better and better and better, and played some linebacker, and then kept playing safety. And then his senior year, he had a great year at running back, and really played well. Carried their team and had some really electric runs, and he's carried that over in his time at Florida. Really good back.
It's so interesting how that can happen. You can have a great player, but maybe they're still figuring out exactly where they're supposed to be. When he mentions this guy who went from DB all the way down to running back and then being an impact player at that position, my mind immediately goes to Robert Edwards and what he was able to do here at Georgia, starting at defensive back, then ending up a first-round draft pick as a running back that had his career unfortunately cut short in the NFL. But Robert was incredible as a running back, and everything we've seen from Ball so far shows that he has, I'm not going to say he has that kind of ability, but that he can have a really good future as a running back, both in college and potentially in the NFL.
Coach, I know obviously want to see improvements as the year goes along, but specifically for the defense, what improvements would you like to see from the entire group from now until the end of the season?
I think I'd start with tackling. I think at the end of the day, that's what defense is about, and good defenses have few missed tackles.
Yeah.
And when you look at the two of our lesser performances, there were a lot of missed tackles. And first thing you start with is that you've got to tackle well, which starts with being in position to make the tackle, not being out of position. But tackling well is key. Third down defense, I'd like to see us get guys in third and long because we're pretty successful when we get guys in third and long. But that starts with first and second down. And so it all carries over, and it kind of all bleeds into each other.
The thing about tackling, and let's put an even finer point on it, is tackling in space. Because the way Georgia, when they're at their best and they're mugging up in the A-gaps, or they're able to get pressure from the down four, or even if they're bringing pressure, the thing that is vital in this league, especially against teams like Texas or teams like Ole Miss or teams like Tennessee, is when you are able to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quicker maybe than he wanted to. Don't give him a chance to throw it down the field. And he swings the ball out, or he hits the quick slant or whatever it is because you've hurried his clock. Then you have to make that tackle. You have to stop the yards after catch. So, and Kirby's exactly right. In the games that they haven't played so well, they have not tackled very well in space. And the flip side of that is where they have looked decent at times on defense, it's because they are tackling well in space. And we've seen everybody fall victim to this. We've seen C.J. Allen miss tackles. We've seen K.J. Bolden miss tackles. We've seen Dalen Everett miss tackles, right? So that is the perfect answer. You have to be as close to perfect on that as you can be when it's tackling. And if we're being greedy, I don't want to see you just get them on the ground. I want to see you show up with bad intentions and deliver a message. But first things first, let's make sure that we get them on the ground. Because once you do that, and then you get them behind the sticks a little bit, then you can actually see whether or not you can rush the passer, because you're going to have a better idea of when they're going to throw it, and you can pin your ears back a little bit and get after them. So pretty good answer there. I like that answer from Kirby.
Kirby, off topic, the comedian Nate Bargatze was making his pitch on College Game Day to get a recruit to go to Vanderbilt. Does anything surprise you in recruiting, or is that a new one for you?
No, I mean, I don't get caught up in it much, Mark. I don't look at the stuff like that, and just recruit the best job we can and sell what we have and talk to the kids and communicate with the kids that we talk to, and trust them for what they tell us, and not get into gimmicks and propaganda stuff.
Good job, Kirby. I was curious if anyone was going to ask him about any of this, because it seems to be gaining traction out there in the zeitgeist, right? How College Game Day or Herb Street or whomever is putting their thumb on the scale a little bit. And does that have any impact on whether or not a player is going to choose to leave a commitment that he made to Georgia and go somewhere else? Some people saying it happened before, and now you see this on Saturday. I would just say that, and this Kirby answered it perfectly, but I would just say from my personal opinion that if you are a person like a Nick Saban or like a Herb Street or anyone else that has a national voice that people listen to, whether you or I listen to them or not, there are voices out there that people listen to. Those people should be responsible with the words that they use and not in any way open themselves up to egging someone on or even casting a shadow that you might be putting your thumb on the scale one way or the other, because that's not your job. Your job when you're in that voice, when you're in that role, is to just call it like you see it, not say, this guy's on campus and he, could they flip him from Georgia and just say the words, you can't do that. That I just personally, as someone who's been a journalist for 26 years, better than 26 years, you can't do that. You can ask the questions in a way that gives your guest, gives the young man who's in question an opportunity to respond to them. Completely fine. You can do that. You should in no way weaken your credibility by making it appear in any way that you are putting your thumb on the scale for or against anyone else when it comes to stuff like this. As for Kirby's answer, perfect.
Coach, another 10,000-foot question with Brian Kelly being fired. Guy won more than 70% of his games. It seems like the expectations in the new college landscape has led to more midseason firings. What do you make of the state of the game, and is there any sort of danger here?
I don't know. I mean, it's the world we live in. Everybody's got a voice. Everybody listens to somebody. A lot of I don't know enough about that situation, to be honest with you, that specific situation. I think you're asking a general view, but I don't know enough about what's going on over there. Got enough things to worry about in our own house, and that's what I focus on. It's obviously a tough situation on everybody. I mean, let's be honest. It's the players dealing with it, fans dealing with it, coaches dealing with it at this time in the middle of a season. I think there's so much built around the playoffs, and it's like everything's boom or bust, and you can't have a normal season. People got to make decisions earlier based on how somebody does, and I don't know enough about it. I know it's high expectations. I coached at LSU, and a guy once told me, he said, that office you're in, that's not your office. You're borrowing it. And I knew right then that if you didn't win, you wouldn't be there long.
And that's the reality. Now, whether or not that reality is insanity, well, that's for the people who have skin in the game to decide. That's not my team. I don't have an opinion on it other than to say that the same thing applies at LSU that applies at the University of Georgia. And I'm not talking directly about expectation. What I'm saying is, if you're going to do all the things that college football is doing right now in terms of revenue, if you're maximizing revenue through television deals, if you are paying players, if you are putting logos on the field to get more of a commitment from a company so that you can raise revenue, whether it's for facilities or whether it's for NIL or whatever it is, if you are going to do what you're doing, right, and let money guide you and not his history and tradition and the way it has been, whatever, then this is the world that we live in. This is where we end up. And when you are the head coach at the flagship public university of any state, I would have to double check, but I feel confident that, especially in a Power 4 school, I don't think there's any doubt, you are the highest paid public servant, public employee in that state. Okay? So Kirby Smart represents the University of Georgia, my alma mater. He is a public employee of the state of Georgia when it all shakes out. So the expectations for what he should get done, given the landscape of everything, they are what they are, and he knows that. And so does Brian Kelly. So did Billy Napier. There's a certain amount of danger, if you want to think about it that way, of losing your job when you are tied to public funds in that way. Now, listen, if somebody wants to run into the comments and argue about they're not publicly paid by the state or whatever, listen, okay, we could have some sort of in the weeds argument about it. But I'm just keeping it 30,000 foot here, and I'm just saying, Kirby's right. He doesn't know about that situation. He can't speak on it, but he spoke to his history there, and he understands that LSU is a high pressure situation. They want to win. It's probably in the top 3 jobs nationally in college football. Recruiting base, the ability to be in the game when it comes to the new world of college football, and just the passion that the fan base has is, right there with anybody else you can imagine. So is Georgia one of the top jobs in the country? Absolutely. Is LSU right there with it and probably the top open job in the country right now? Absolutely. So pressure's high. You got to perform. You got to win. Everybody does. And there should not be any corners cut for Brian Kelly or for the players or for Kirby Smart or anyone else. This is where the sport is. You're reaping the benefits of it every day. Whether you go look at your bank account, when you look at your lifestyle, perform, or somebody else will.
What stands out to you about Florida's receiving core this year?
Size, speed. They got great size, speed, twitch, movement at the line of scrimmage, ability to make plays down the field, break tackles, block, crack, in the run game, involvement in the run game. They do a really good job getting their wideouts involved in that, shift motion to get them open. But they're talented. They've got young and old, and they've got good players.
That is a talented group. And something I would add to that I've just watched them do on the field is they have that go get it about them. Like the ball's in the air and they think it's theirs. They're going to go make that play. They are trying to score when the ball's in their hands. They're not trying to catch it and get down. You know what I mean? Like there's a killer instinct to it. And that makes them dangerous. So again, going back to the discussion from earlier in this piece, they're going to take their shots, and Georgia better be up to the task. And if they happen to complete the balls, which they will, and there will be PI in the game against Georgia for sure, because Kirby told us last week, we're going to play physically, we're going to be on them. You got to get them off the routes. When you do that, it's boom or bust. You could give up a big play here or there. So if they catch it, get them on the ground, right? We can't have any more of that catch it and then let them run. Catch it, get them on the ground, let's play the next play.
Kirby, speaking of coaching, you're one of 5 alums of the team that you're coaching that's in this week's AP Top 10. And there's also Jeff Brom and Kenny Dillingham. How helpful is it? How much of a strength is it to be in that position? Is it an advantage in general? Was it an advantage for you?
I don't know. I mean, there are advantages in terms of the people you know, the people you're connected to, the infrastructure that you know about, whether it's institutional infrastructure or it's fan base infrastructure. I mean, I think there's an attachment and you understand it well. There's also a burden that comes with that in terms of I've been other places and you never have to worry about keeping people happy that played there before, or the people that were involved there before, or feeling like your time is their time in terms of, I'm not just talking about alumni, I'm talking about, former players and lettermen, I'm talking about alumni and everybody else. So there's advantages and there's disadvantages to it. I don't know if that's correlated to anything or not in terms of it. I would have thought during the NIL fundraising days, it probably helped. But it's not, that's not as prevalent right now. It's a little more rev share, and you get your piece of the pie and you spend it how you see fit. Whereas before it was, how much can you go out and raise? So that might have helped some in the last couple of years.
I don't think it's going to go away either, Kirby. I think that's always going to be part of it. And it sort of ties back to what I was saying earlier about, you are bound just in legacy, history, everything else to the school that you're at if you're Kirby Smart right now. So it makes the fans love you, because if you're being successful, then you're one of their own. And it makes the fans maybe be a little bit more lenient if things aren't going exactly the right way. And thankfully, Georgia hasn't experienced that recently. But in the future, at some point, that could be the case. We'll just have to wait and see. But I just think, and Kirby has said many, many times that he loves the university. He loves the state. He loves to be a part of the community. His family gives back to the community, and all that's real. And I just know as a fellow alum, that's something that I really appreciate about Kirby and what he's doing. Regardless of what he's making, that doesn't matter because that's part of the bigger field here in college football, right? It's just that is the marketplace. It is what it is. It will bear what it bears. But the fact that deep down, I believe that it means something to Kirby above and beyond whatever it is he's making because he was here at the University of Georgia. I think that's human nature. I think it shows up in the way he goes about his work. And I certainly think that on some level, even if it's way down the list, when you're lining up to play Georgia Tech or Florida or Auburn or one of these schools, lip service from the podium is one thing, but I have to believe that deep down, those games mean a little bit more to Kirby, and I think it adds a little something extra to whatever it is they're doing. Yes, he's going to prepare the same way every week, but there's a fire, a drive deep inside you that pushes you to do something a little bit different when it means something to you. And I just think that's what we have in Kirby Smart at the University of Georgia. And I am grateful for that.
Yeah, do you have any further update on KYRON Jones and his foot injury he's dealing with? And also just kind of like Dash asked earlier, what do you want to continue seeing out of the secondary coming out of the bye week into these last 5 games of the season?
Yeah, I want to keep seeing growth. I want to keep seeing guys getting better. Again, number one thing you can do in the secondary is tackle.
Yeah.
So when you get an opportunity to tackle somebody, you got to get them on the ground. You get opportunities to make plays on the ball. You got to make plays on the ball. And then you got to make some plays where you punish people when they make mistakes and catch the ball. So those are things we're looking for each and every week out of every group, but specifically the secondary. And KYRON, again, we're trying to get him back as soon as we can. We're hoping he's able to make it back.
Is it just me or does it just feels like there's an extra layer of mystery around this injury for some reason? Like I've heard nothing other than he's out and we hope to get him back. And there may be nothing to it, but it feels different for some reason. So I hope the young man's okay. I hope he gets back and can help Georgia soon.
Yeah, this is the last year this iteration of the stadium, and Jackson will be there. Do you have, whether your time there as a player or as a coach, have a favorite memory from that stadium?
A lot of memories because I've seemed like I've coached every Georgia-Florida game that I've been involved in has been there. So it's been some really good battles, some great games, and then played there, I guess, 3 or 4 times. I'm not sure how many times because we had one here. But I don't think there's anything that really sticks out like just as, some great wins and some tough losses.
Yeah, well, I've been on both sides of that with you there, Kirby, the great wins and the tough losses. But it is interesting because in the past, Kirby said things like, I don't remember, it's so long ago and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think the building matters. It's the atmosphere that matters. It's not even the outside atmosphere is cool, but it's the inside atmosphere. Like once you're even in the tunnels, making your way to your seats and all that kind of stuff, that's what's cool is seeing it and watching the ebb and flow between the two fan bases. I thought that's what made it special.
Coach, just what are your early thoughts of Florida's defense? Obviously, they've had some games where they've been, really dominant, and they've had some games where they've not been. So, just what are your thoughts on, some of the talent that they have on that defensive front, especially?
Yeah, they're really talented, and they've had some injuries. They've got some guys out. You can only imagine what this unit would look like if it had stayed healthy the entire year. But they are really good. They're big. They're physical. They got a great defensive coordinator who knows what he's doing. He understands where weaknesses are. He understands what you're trying to do. He has compliments for that. He's been really successful as a defense coordinator everywhere he's been, and they do a great job of stopping the run, affecting the passer. Very dominant defensive team in terms of physicality and skill level.
To that point specifically, all you have to do is look at the Texas game. Now, I understand that Texas up front is not what they were last year and that they have serious issues, in some spots along the offensive line. But when you saw the way Florida was able to get after them, win almost instantly when it was in the pass rush situation, that just lets you know that that is a talented group and they absolutely can make things difficult for Georgia on Saturday. So the onus is on Georgia's offensive line, which seems to be healthier, which seems to be sort of coming together the way we all hoped that they would. It's on them to show up in Jacksonville on Florida and make sure this game goes the way all indications would make you believe it should go, which is they run the football the way they have all year. They protect Gunner, give the offense a chance to work. And then as the game goes along, they impose their will. Because again, Florida's first 22 are as good as just about anybody's. But the depth there is something that I've questioned since before the season. And if Georgia can get a lead and then start to lean on them a little bit, then once you get to the back half of the game, you could see some separation there in this score, because I don't think Florida has the ability to hang in there for 4 quarters if they are being physically leaned on and ground down the way I think this Georgia offense has the opportunity to do to them on Saturday.
To ask about the journey that Gunner's been on this year, the improvements he's made from week to week, and still what you want to see from him the rest of the season.
Yeah, I want to see him continue to grow, take what the defense gives him, understand what we're trying to do. We give Gunner a lot of latitude and options in terms of the play call. It's more about putting us in the right play to be successful based on what they're in defensively. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that decision-making process. Every play might have 2 to 3 decisions he has to make, and those 2 to 3 decisions sometimes determine the outcome of that play. And really proud of his growth. He's got to keep doing it and keep taking care of the ball. And when he does that, then we're a good football team.
The thing I've noticed and really appreciated from Gunner more over the last couple of weeks, and especially against Ole Miss on this past game, is the fact that early in the year, when he would pull the ball down and have to move inside the pocket because that offensive line wasn't doing what it was supposed to do because of injury and other things, then his first instinct was to run. And I was like, we just keep your eyes up, look down the field, run to pass, right? Don't run to just escape. Against Ole Miss, we really saw that. Now, things were different. The offensive line was playing better. The run game was going well. And the pass pro was better against Ole Miss than I could really remember seeing it be at any point this year. And that's directly because the offensive line has the players they want out there that have been rested, right? And then when there was pressure, you saw Gunner protect the football with 2 hands, climb the pocket, maneuver inside the pocket, and then deliver the ball down the field. The sliding catch to London Humphreys was that kind of play. Climb the pocket, break out to the right a little bit, hit a guy who's working back to you to help you out. Gunner did that over and over and over in that game against Ole Miss. And if he continues to do that, there will be opportunities, not only to just move the chains, but for big plays. And I would love to see Gunner continue to do that. And take care of yourself. Slide, get out of bounds when you can. We all know how tough you are. Let's not test it on every run. Take care of yourself.
I know at the end of the Ole Miss game, you said you may have gone against the analytics to kick the field goal. I'm curious, how often during a game do you want to know what the book says? And how has your relationship with analytics evolved over the 10 years here?
Well, when it started, I wasn't really involved in analytics. I don't know that it was prevalent 10 years ago. Maybe it was, and I wasn't, but I didn't really play a part. Somewhere around year 3 or 4, it began increasing. I've probably increased the use of it every year, but the use of it doesn't mean the being chained to it. It's one of those things that I think you've got to use your gut, your intuition. But at the end of the day, I do believe in statistics and analytics, and I think it's going to be right more time than it's not. And we know every situation what it says. I don't want to be sometimes know what the book says, and sometimes I don't. I want to know what it says all the time, and make the best decision in that situation.
That's exactly the answer I want him to give. Let it guide you. But at the end of the day, you are getting paid what you're getting paid to be the head coach. If you just follow the script that's on the book, hell, I can do that. So if you have been around it, that's where your experience comes in. That's where your feel for your team and your game that you're in, the circumstances, the situation, that's where that comes in. And that's why you have to make the calls you have to make. Just like Ole Miss, where he wanted to go for it. Analytics probably said go for it. And Kirby decided to kick that field goal and make it an 8-point game. That's exactly the answer I want him to give. And because I take that position, then ultimately, at the end of the day, I choose to be okay with whatever it is that he chooses to do, because essentially I just gave him permission. Make the call. That's why you're there. In Kirby, we trust, right? So that's the answer I'm happy with. I like that a lot. If you feel differently, I'd love to hear it. Drop it in the comments and let me know.
Kirby, we're going to talk to Drew Bobo in a second, but he's one of multiple legacies that you have here, sons of guys that you played with, that you were a part of. What's it like having those guys on the team, and what's it like coaching them and then talking to their dad afterwards?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of pride. It says a lot about the coaching staff and the community and the people that were here when their fathers played, for their fathers to be willing to support their sons coming here. You don't necessarily have to have a perfect experience to send your son here, but it certainly helps that you have a positive experience, because you wouldn't be sending your son there. And you find a lot of people across the country that are maybe disenchanted, maybe where they went to school, maybe something didn't go like they wanted to, and it's harder to get the son than it is if they went to school there. And there have been a lot of legacies come through, and we have not gotten them all, but we have gotten some of them, and I wish nothing but the best on the ones that don't come, and I wish nothing but the best the ones that we get, because I think it's important that, if your father or whoever, whatever guardian played here, that you have a positive experience if you come too.
Again, this is kind of one of those warm and fuzzy feeling questions, and I vibe with everything he said there. Kirby and I were at Georgia at the same time. I've told the story a couple of different times that on an occasion or two, I was on the bus with Bobo as they were making their way back to the football facilities, right? South Campus Loop back in the day. So that's just the way it is. It's I appreciate the fact that these people want to send their children or sign off on their children coming back to play at the University of Georgia. I think it's cool. I don't think it's kind of like the coach question. Does it mean that they are automatically going to be great players or anything like that? No, I don't think anything like that has anything to do with it. But I do think it's cool that a son his mother may have come here or his father may have played here, and now he's like, okay, I want to go to Georgia too. I just think it says a lot about the family unit. I think it says a lot about the university. I think it says a lot about the current coaching staff that's here, that make you see all of that and can tie that fabric of history together and continue something great here at the University of Georgia. Because it's like Kirby pointed out, there are guys who chose to not come here, and there were several that Georgia really wanted who didn't choose to come play at Georgia. So you don't get them all, but the ones who choose to come, I personally, I root for those kids. I'm not going to say harder, but maybe on a different level, in a different way, additionally to how I might just look at what they're doing on the field.
Yeah, Kirby, obviously there's a lot of history in this series with underdogs winning games and kind of ruining other teams' games. How much kind of education will you do on the rivalry with some of your newer players this week?
Not a lot. I mean, we talk about the things that are facts about the history of the game, which are like, the team that rushes, the team that does this, the team that things that are obvious, explosive plays. You have more explosive plays than them, you're probably going to win. You have less turnovers than them, you're probably going to win. If you rush the ball better, you've got a good chance of winning. There's things that are facts about that, and then there's things that are just part of history. And to be honest with you, I'm focused on what we got to do to play well and be at our best, and I think we control that.
And that's, yes, Kirby, absolutely. And we also have to keep in mind too that this day and age of football player, a lot of them don't even like football when they're not playing. They don't watch the games. They prefer other sports. That's just the generation that we're in. That's just the way it is. So you might be wasting your time to go back and show some of the stuff that's happened in the past, because they certainly aren't going to care in a way that's going to make them any more amped up to go play, right? If you show them 2007 Georgia celebration, then you show them 2008 where Spikes and No Sean get after one another, right? And what Tebow did and what Urban Meyer did with the timeouts and all that kind of stuff, they're not going to care. They'll just watch it like something that they're completely detached from, right? But if you just go back and look at last year and there are players there, you can say, well, see how we overcame this, see where this made a difference in the game, see where the fact that we could run the football here really mattered. I think that has much more impact. So that's probably wasted time if you did a lot of it. A little general history, sure, but nothing too specific.
You've talked about the environment in Jacksonville before, the pregame particularly being a little bit different than a home or an away stadium. Is there anything that you do a little bit differently in the pregame to get your guys going with the maybe not quite as much noise or excitement in the pregame at Jacksonville that you would at a stadium venue?
No, other than explain it. I mean, there's not a big rah-rah hoopla. I mean, you're responsible for your own ability to get up. If you can't get up for a game like this, you don't need to be playing.
Simple and factual. And he's right. It is a little bit more, what's the word? It's more corporate at Jacksonville for sure before the game starts. But then you go in after warmups, you come out and it's split red and black, orange and blue, 50-50. And that's where it comes over you. But it's like all things that happen. That lasts, if you're a player, for a few minutes. And then you're on. You got to focus on what it is you're doing. So keep it about the game. Keep it about the execution. Keep it about owning your box, winning your battle, and Georgia should be in good shape.
Yeah, we saw Oscar and Lawson have some pretty big games against Ole Miss. What have you seen from those guys over the bye week, continuing to build on that, and how can they benefit the offense over this last stretch of the regular season?
Yeah, I've seen the same thing I saw all year. I think you guys highlight when they get used and when they don't, but they practice the same regardless. They don't just like turn it on in practice. They do a good job. Some teams play us differently than others. Some teams provide us the opportunity. Sometimes Gunners on the same page in terms of what we're looking for and what they're doing, and it opens itself up. But they've been huge assets for us, and they've practiced consistently throughout the season.
That position, regardless of how much I or anyone else who's not in the building might gripe about the use of the tight ends, one thing's for sure is that they have worked without the football this year. And when they have gotten their opportunities, when the ball has come their way, much like Lucky talked about last week after the game, after his 3-touchdown performance, the ball just came their way. When the ball comes your way, you have to make plays, and that's what they've done. So it doesn't matter. Georgia doesn't run an offense like Ohio State where they're going to throw it to a him guy. That's not how it goes. When the ball comes your way, though, you need to be the 5-star blue chip, whatever recruit that they brought in here and do your job. So if it comes to you, catch it, right? If the play's your way, block it. If the play's ongoing, hustle, get down there, follow the ball. Good things happen. That's what you're supposed to do. So is the pressure of performing or having statistical numbers that mean something over something else. Again, I think that's mostly a fan thing, because you don't go to Georgia, you don't do what they do, you don't have it surround you the entire time, that it's about the system, the game plan, the team, and then not have that be something you buy into. You know what the deal is. Your responsibility is when the ball comes your way that you do your job. And this year, the tight ends, for the most part, have done exactly that.
Losing COLBIE obviously was tough. I mean, probably your most physical receiver there on the perimeter. How do you go about trying to replace a guy like that? Can you replace a guy like that? What are some of the other guys going to have to do?
Well, those other guys are physical too. I mean, we got a physical group. There's nobody in our secondary group that's going to run away from contact or fear contact. Those guys are aggressive. Now, COLBIE has a physical presence to him that he's even more valuable with the ball in his hand because he's hard to tackle, and that's his physicality is tackling him. He's also physical blocking, but so are the other guys. So we've got other guys. We've got tight ends we can use. 14 personnel, 13 personnel, 12 use of wideouts. A lot of good wideouts that can play for us, and that's been one of our deeper groups. So we'll continue to do what we do in that regard.
Holy 14 personnel. I know there are some people out there that are going to smile when they hear that one. Man alive, but he's not lying. And that's the cool thing about the way Georgia recruits is that you look at a kid like Elias Williams. I mean, he is a gigantic human, and he has the intangibles, according to Kirby, to be somebody who wants to be good at blocking and that he's improving. You look at a kid like BAUGH who got hurt early in the year, who was about the physicality of it, who was down to block, down to be that pull guy, the lead blocker coming around the edge. Those guys can absolutely help Georgia in terms of physicality. How you decide to use them, well, that's up to the offensive staff and Coach Smart there. But no doubt, losing COLBIE hurts in a big way. And I just hate it for him as an individual. But that's the way the sport goes. And every person who plays the game understands that, and they know that now is an opportunity for me to show what I can do. So it doesn't matter if you're a freshman or just somebody who wasn't getting the number of reps maybe you hope to get and now you will. What did I just say? When the ball comes your way, you have the opportunity. Be the player that Georgia recruited you to be. And if you do that, then you and everybody else are going to be just fine.
One more question. Kind of piggybacking on what you were asked earlier, but because you guys kind of turn over every stone. What does Ryan O'Hara's background tell you about what he can bring as a play caller?
Yeah, he's been multiple places. He's had success where he's been. Billy wouldn't have brought him on the staff if he didn't have those successes. He's got a great relationship with the quarterback. I think, the person that meets with the quarterback during the day and during the week and during the off season and during all the game planning, that's who the quarterback is comfortable with. So his history has been with those quarterbacks, and he's had success doing it. So it makes perfect sense, in terms of the feel that they have and wanting the quarterback to feel comfortable.
So there's going to be a certain amount of stuff that has to be figured out from Georgia's perspective when they play the Gators on Saturday because of all the change. But it's like Kirby just said right there. It's logical that the young man who's going to be dealing directly with DJ LAGWAY is exactly the person that you would expect it would be. And that's the guy that has been there for all the install and everything along the way every day this season. So that part is what it is. They have to manage their own house, as do the Dogs, as they get ready to go down to Jacksonville for the world's largest outdoor cocktail party here in 2025. I'm looking forward to it. Every day is a great day to hate the Gators. I'll talk to you again soon. Go Dogs!
Told them, how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told them.